together, we did make a very nice income. But the military, and you all can check me on this, these other military people, the military has never told us, just because my ex-husband elected to be a geographical bachelor, that they were going to pay us for 2 homes. I think if they did, my divorce settlement would have been a lot bigger. Now, I'm going to ask, do you all think that is a good excuse to say that you live in 2 different locations? And that's the reason you can earn that kind of money, or I'm just asking that off the top of my head. Giving this young lady time to write down her question.
Military service members on a tour, maybe, but June versus Virginia.
Anybody else here, another military spouse or person care to comment on increased income just because you live in dual residence? No? Hot topic.
There's just a...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There are a lot of different scams within the military. And, you know, part of being in the military is you get money. And there's so many different ways to work this. People are walking away with a lot of money right now.
Well, you know, I have never seen a military person unless they do, you know, really high up. But you know who makes up the rules for the military, who's in charge of the VA? These guys are applying for that job. They make the decision whether or not they get a raise or the military gets a raise. They make the decision on whether or not a person in the reserves has to stop their $80,000 a year to be earned $50,000 or $40,000 a year. That's quite a cut.
I was going to say, of course, I was raised in a military family. My son's in the military. Military life's hard on family. It really is. I understand sometimes the thought processes of some families that are doing what they think that they need to do in order to survive and make more money. However, I would disagree with that particular strategy to try to in regards to that. But let's put it this way. I just had a friend that just came back from Iraq. Of course, my son came back from Iraq about a year ago, but I just had a friend that came back a few weeks back. And he said that his salary was $32,000. And I'm going to give an example of wasteful spending. The contractor that did the exact same job that he did got paid $110,000. A contractor. Our taxpayer money going into that. So I think that needs to be changed.
Anyone else want to elaborate on that? No? Well, Layla has a question here. Layla, did you want to ask it? Okay. She said, would you support cutting USA's foreign presence, i.e. military bases in 50+ countries, creating a reason to go to wars? How many foreign countries have you been to? And yes. How many of them you heard like America's presence?
Yes, we do need, that's one way we can save some money. We're in over 100, we have station bases in over 130 countries around the world. And the last time I checked, we're only at war in 2 of them. So, can we call them a war or are they a police action? What are we calling them now? Anyway, we haven't declared war since World War II. I think our troops have been abused in far too many cases by being sent around the world to be the world's policemen. They're not trained to be policemen, they're trained to be soldiers. And there's a difference between police and soldiers. And when you take military personnel and you put them in a combat situation and you expect them to act like a policeman, it gets more of them killed. And that's wrong. And then we've got people now, you've seen the news stories over in Afghanistan, they're worried that they're going to get sued or prosecuted or something by their own government or by some foreign government because they punch a terrorist in the mouth while they're arresting him. No, if you're in a combat situation, you need to be able to act like a combat soldier.
Thank you.
Yes, also, we need to get out of a lot of places around the world. We are in Iraq. In my opinion, we never should have gone in the first place. I think it was reasonable to go into Afghanistan, but that was almost 9 years ago. Osama bin Laden has long since departed the scene. And that's one area where I disagree with President Obama increasing our presence in over the centuries, many countries have gone in there and left wishing they had.
I think the strategy that we had been doing, you mentioned 50+ military bases all throughout the world. You know, all it's doing is heightening up the anti-American fever among many places in the world. And absolutely, yes.
Make a note, folks, the three of us agree on something.
We're winding down, but I'm going to take one more question here. How do you justify universal health care when Congress and the White House are exempting themselves? How far should the nanny state reach? This is from Stephanie.
Yeah.
Sure. How do you justify universal health care? We'll open up with the health care question. When Congress and the White House are exempting themselves, how far should the nanny state reach? I guess this is asking how far government should be, I mean, what part should government take in our health care? So I guess we're right back where we started from regarding health care.
Well, I mean, we still don't have universal health care. We are the only developed country in the world that doesn't have universal health care. I think a sane program could be worked out that could cover people. Many countries who have universal health care pay about half per person than what we are paying. So a lot of things need to be done to simplify things. And one thing I would just like to mention, being a doctor, what was supposed to be in the health care bill was end-of-life care, dealing with end-of-life care. And that was corrupted by Sarah Palin and the like into death panels. Modification of end-of-life care is absolutely needed. We spend something like 40% of our Medicare dollars taking care of people in the last 6 months of their lives. Many tests are ordered that don't need to be ordered. Procedures are done. It's a huge waste of money, and it causes suffering. In many cases, it doesn't relieve it.
Thank you. Sure. It says, how do you justify universal health care when Congress and the White House are exempting themselves? How far should the nanny state reach?
Well, I think it's obvious to anybody who's been listening so far, I believe the federal government should not be involved in the business of being a nanny state. The federal government is not supposed to be in that business. I believe the private sector can handle it a lot better and a lot more efficiently. I mean, do you want the same people who run Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid into the ground handling your health care? Really? Congress should have to live with the same laws that the rest of us do, period. We do not have a class of royalty in this country. We are a Republican form of government. We do not have an elite class, or we're not supposed to. And so we need to make sure that Congress lives by the same standards and rules they set for the rest of us.
You know, I just got, you know, I had worked in a nursing home for a couple of years. And it was sad to see that every elderly, disabled veteran that had come to that nursing home had to sell everything that they had ever owned in order just to be able to die in peace. It was absolutely remarkable. Why is end-of-life care under Medicaid, where Medicaid is supposed to be for folks who cannot afford insurance, when it should be under Medicare, when Medicare is supposed to be for elderly and the disabled? Doesn't make sense to me. It sounds like a way for government to save money. The other things is that a lot of people forget that the most purest form of universal health care is what? Veterans benefits. Veterans health care. And I think we need to remember that. If the care is good enough for a veteran, then the care is good enough for me. And I want to make sure that, and I think there's more that we can do also for our veterans. If our veterans, elderly and disabled, are going to give us a safe and secure country,